Welcome back to Math 171 Pre-Calculus Algebra. In this video, we're going to talk about working with the square roots of negative numbers. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking that we've talked earlier about how you can't take the square root of a negative number. And that is true within the real numbers, but at some point mathematicians decided they wanted equations like x squared plus 1 equals 0 to have a solution. So what they decided to do was we're going to create a number and call it I. That's going to be equal to the square root of negative 1. Or put in a different way, I squared is equal to negative 1. So, we can go ahead and work with stuff like the square root of negative 16. That's going to be equal I times the square root of 16, or 4I. And we can do this with some more advanced stuff, like if I took the square root of negative 8 and multiply it by the square root of negative 18. Now this is something to be careful with. We cannot, like we did with the real numbers, just multiply negative 8 and negative 18. That rule only applies to square roots of real numbers. Square roots that are real numbers. When the square root itself is not a real number, the first thing that we have to do is pull that I out. And now all of our normal rules of associativity and commutativity apply here. So we have I squared multiplied by the square root of 8, multiplied by the square root of 18. And now we can apply the rule that we know, and we get I squared multiplied by the square root of 144. So that's going to be 12 I squared, but remember I squared is negative 1. So 12 times negative 1 gives us negative 12. So that's the idea of complex numbers with the square root of a negative number. In the next video, we're going to talk about doing some arithmetic with complex numbers.